Imagine for a moment that nothing in your life has ever been random. Every joy, every heartbreak, every success, every loss. What if all of it carried a hidden message, an invitation to awaken? The world tells us that events are accidents, that we stumble through chaos without meaning. But Buddhism whispers a different truth. Nothing is without cause, nothing is without purpose. To open your eyes to this is to begin to see life not as a series of coincidences, but as a vast and intricate teaching. Picture a river. The water does not choose its stones, its curves, or its speed. It simply flows, adjusting to every obstacle, yet never ceasing. Your life is like that river. Each bend, each rock, each unexpected turn is not an error. It is part of the current that carries you forward. The pain you felt yesterday, the triumph you celebrated last year, even the silence you endured in lonely hours, all of it was woven into the fabric of your becoming. But here is the uncomfortable truth. We resist. We cling to the good moments as if they should last forever, and we fight against the painful ones as if they have no right to exist. This resistance is what creates suffering. Buddhism teaches that impermanence is the law of life, anicca. Nothing remains as it island. Yet we behave as if permanence were our birthright, as if love should never change, as if health should never falter, as if the world should always bend to our desires. And when it doesn't, we cry out, "Why me?" What if instead we asked, "What is this moment trying to teach me?" In this journey, we will explore timeless Buddhist wisdom that explains why everything happens for a reason, not as fatalism, not as resignation, but as an invitation to see deeper. Impermanence, karma, attachment, mindfulness, flow, and purpose. Each is a lens through which we can transform how we see life. Think of a glass in your hand. You cherish it, polish it, protect it. Yet the wise teacher sees that the glass is already broken. One day it will fall, or crack, or simply fade. Knowing this does not make the glass worthless. It makes it infinitely more precious now. To see life in this way is to live without fear of loss, because loss is already written into the nature of things. The miracle is not in keeping everything forever, but in loving what is here while it is here. Pause for a breath. Ask yourself, how many of your deepest pains came from trying to hold on to what could not be held? A relationship you wished would last, a moment of happiness you begged to stretch longer, a chapter of your life you were not ready to close. Each resistance was like trying to dam the river with your bare hands. You cannot stop the flow, but you can learn to float with it. And here is the hope. When you begin to see the hidden purpose in events, the fear of life begins to dissolve. The job you lost may have been the doorway to a new calling. The friend who left may have freed you for deeper love. The failure that stung may have sharpened your strength. Nothing wasted, nothing random, everything part of the unfolding. This is not superstition. It is not blind belief. It is the lived experience of countless practitioners, monks and seekers over centuries who discovered that when you surrender your demand for control, a deeper order reveals itself. Life ceases to be your enemy and becomes your teacher. So, as we begin, hold this thought close. You are not adrift in chaos. You are not abandoned to chance. Every moment that comes to you, pleasant or painful, is an invitation. The question is, will you resist it, or will you learn from it? Stay with me, because what follows may not only change how you see your past, but how you walk into your future. From the very first breath we take, life is already teaching us about change. The air enters, and it must leave. The heart beats, and then it rests. Each morning the sun rises, Each evening it sets. Impermanence. Anicca, as Buddhism calls it, is not an abstract idea, but the most concrete reality of existence. Everything that arises will pass away. Nothing escapes this law. Yet, paradoxically, most human suffering comes from our refusal to accept this. We cling to what is pleasant as if it should never end. We fight against what is unpleasant as if it has no right to exist. In this resistance, we create pain beyond the pain of change itself. Consider the seasons. Spring's blossoms burst forth, dazzling and fragrant, yet within weeks they fall. Summer's warmth eventually gives way to autumn's chill. Even the longest winter cannot last forever. Inevitably, it yields to the first shoots of green. Each season holds beauty, but none can remain unchanged. Our lives follow the same pattern. Joyful chapters give way to challenges. Relationships shift, bodies age, dreams transform. To expect otherwise is to demand the impossible. Buddhism points to this universal truth, not to make us despair, but to liberate us. When we stop demanding permanence from what cannot be permanent, we begin to experience peace. Imagine holding a flower. If you insist it must never wilt, your joy will sour into anxiety the moment you see its petals fade. But if you embrace it knowing it will soon wither, you can savor its fragrance fully, without fear. Impermanence also applies to our suffering. The grief that once seemed unbearable slowly softens. The anger that burned within us eventually loses its fire. The mind that feels stuck in despair eventually shifts, sometimes unexpectedly, into clarity. Nothing remains fixed. The same truth that makes joys fleeting also ensures that sorrows do not last forever. This is why the Buddha taught, "This too shall pass." But here lies a deeper lesson. Impermanence is not just an obstacle, it is the very ground of growth. A seed must break apart to sprout. The skin of a snake must shed for it to grow. A child must lose innocence to gain wisdom. Without change, there is no transformation. If things were truly permanent, no healing would be possible, no progress attainable, no liberation achievable. The very possibility of awakening rests on the reality that all things are in flux. So why do we struggle so much with change? Because the ego craves stability. It wants to believe I am this and you are that. Fixed identities, fixed possessions, fixed certainties. But the truth is that the self itself is impermanent. The body you had as a child is not the same body you have today. The mind you had a decade ago is not the same mind you carry now. You have changed countless times already, and still, part of you insists you should remain the same. To see impermanence clearly is to loosen the chains of the ego. When we understand that everything, including ourselves, is fluid, we become less rigid, less controlling, less desperate to hold on. We learn to dance with change instead of fighting against it. This is what it means to live with serenity. Think about the river again. It never resists its course. When it meets a rock, it flows around it. When it meets a fall, it becomes a waterfall. When it meets the sea, it merges without complaint. If the river insisted on remaining a pond, it would stagnate. Life, like the river, requires movement, and so do we. Accepting impermanence also awakens gratitude. Because nothing lasts forever, each moment becomes precious. The laughter of a loved one, the warmth of a sunset, the quiet of a morning, none of these can be kept, but all can be cherished. When we live as if time is endless, we take life for granted. When we live with awareness of impermanence, every instant becomes a gift. This is why Buddhist practice emphasizes mindfulness. To be present is to catch the fleeting beauty of now. To be mindful is to see the arising and passing of each sensation, each thought, each breath. When you meditate and watch your breath enter and leave, you are training to see impermanence at the most intimate level. You realize that clinging to the in-breath is pointless. It must become out-breath. And yet both are necessary. Both are part of life's rhythm. Impermanence can be frightening when we cling to control, but liberating when we surrender. It teaches us that pain is not forever, that joy is not guaranteed, and that wisdom lies in flowing with the reality of change. It humbles us, softens us, and prepares us to meet life with resilience. So, when you face a season of loss, remember, it will change. When you fear the end of happiness, remember, it was never meant to be permanent. And when you struggle to understand why life shifts beyond your will, remember, impermanence is not your enemy. It is your teacher. In embracing impermanence, we step into freedom. We stop fighting what must change, and we begin to live fully in what island. Every sunrise is unrepeatable. Every word is irreplaceable. Every heartbeat is a reminder. This moment is passing, so live it. Nothing happens by chance. This is one of the boldest and most misunderstood teachings of Buddhism. Karma, so often reduced to a simple slogan of "what goes around comes around," is not punishment, not divine reward, and not superstition. It is the law of cause and effect, as natural as gravity, as constant as the rising of the sunday. Every thought, every word, every action sets ripples into motion, and those ripples, whether we see them or not, shape the conditions of our lives. Imagine throwing a stone into a still pond. Concentric circles spread outward, touching every edge of the water. In the same way, your actions do not end with you. They echo into your relationships, your community, and eventually back into your own heart. The law of karma does not forget, nor does it rush. Some ripples return quickly, others years later, even lifetimes later, but they return. This truth can be unsettling because it strips us of excuses. How often do we blame others, society, or fate for our circumstances? Yet Buddhism asks us to look deeper. What seeds have I planted? If my life is a garden, am I harvesting weeds or flowers? Karma invites radical responsibility. It does not condemn us, it empowers us. For if our present reality is shaped by past choices, then our future reality will be shaped by what we choose now. But karma is subtle. It is not just what we do, but how and why we do it. A smile offered with genuine kindness carries a different energy than one given out of manipulation. A gift given with expectation of return is not the same as a gift given freely. The intention behind an act is the seed. The act itself is the soil. Together, they determine what grows. This is why the Buddha emphasized the three doors of karma: body, speech, and mind. Every action of the body leaves a trace. Every word spoken carries weight. Every thought you entertain creates momentum. We tend to believe that only outward actions matter, but Buddhism reminds us that the mind is the most powerful generator of karma. A thought of hatred, if fed and nurtured, eventually becomes words of cruelty and acts of harm. A thought of compassion, if cultivated, blossoms into words of kindness and deeds of healing. Nothing is too small to count. Perhaps you wonder, if karma is so precise, why do we see injustice? Why do the greedy thrive while the generous suffer? The answer is timing. Seeds do not all sprout at once. Some germinate quickly, others lie dormant until conditions ripen. A person may enjoy temporary benefit from harmful actions, but in the long run, those seeds bear bitter fruit. Likewise, acts of goodness may seem unrewarded in the moment, but they prepare the soil of a brighter future. Karma works on a scale far greater than our impatience. To illustrate, imagine two farmers. One plants thorn bushes, the other apple trees. For a time, both fields look barren. The farmer of thorns may even feel secure, laughing that nothing grows. But when the season changes, the truth reveals itself. One harvests nourishment, the other harvests pain. Karma asks, what are you planting today, whether you see the fruit or not? Another important truth is that karma is not fate. It does not mean we are chained to past mistakes with no escape. The past is a weight, yes, but the present is a sword. Each moment we breathe is a new opportunity to cut through old patterns and plant new seeds. This is why the Buddha declared, karma is intention. What we choose now matters more than what we regret yesterday. Even if we have created suffering before, we can choose compassion, patience, honesty, and generosity today. Every small act shifts the trajectory of our life. Karma also operates collectively. Families, communities, even nations create shared karma. The choices of many shape the atmosphere in which all must live. A society that nurtures greed will taste corruption. A culture that fosters compassion will taste harmony. Understanding this, we see that our responsibility is not just personal but communal. Every action contributes to the climate of the whole. Consider, too, the role of awareness. Karma is not simply about external results. It is about the inner imprint each act leaves behind. When you lie, you do more than deceive another. You erode your own trust in yourself. When you act with cruelty, you reinforce the habit of a cruel mind. When you act with patience, you strengthen patience in yourself. The external world may take time to reflect the results, but internally, the impact is immediate. You become the very energy you cultivate. In this way, karma is both mirror and sculptor. It reflects who we are and shapes who we become. If you want to know your past, look at your present circumstances. If you want to know your future, look at your present choices. This realization can be sobering, but it is also profoundly hopeful, because no matter how dark the past, the present is always a new seedbed. A story often told in Buddhist tradition makes this clear. A disciple asked why one person is born into wealth and another into poverty, why one enjoys good fortune and another misfortune. The master replied, "Look at the seeds. An apple seed does not give thorns. A thorn seed does not give apples." Life is not arbitrary. What you hold in your hand is what you once planted, knowingly or unknowingly. The choice of what to plant now rests with you. Pause and ask yourself, what kind of garden am I growing? Do my words plant peace or conflict? Do my thoughts plant kindness or resentment? Do my actions plant trust or betrayal? Karma is not about fearing punishment or chasing reward. It is about realizing that every breath, every choice, every moment is creative power. You are shaping the field of your destiny right now. So let karma not be a doctrine of fear, but a reminder of empowerment. If your garden is filled with weeds, you need not despair. Begin planting flowers today. If your mind is filled with storms, you need not resign. Begin cultivating calm today. The ripples of your new choices will eventually return to you, just as surely as the old ones did. In truth, karma is the great equalizer. No action is ever lost, no seed ever wasted, no choice ever meaningless. Life is not a random lottery, it is a sacred dialogue between what we sow and what we reap. To understand karma is to reclaim the authorship of your life. And so, as we move forward, remember this: nothing you do is small. Every act is a seed, every word is a ripple, every thought is a brushstroke on the canvas of your destiny. Karma is not against you, it is with you. It is your greatest teacher, waiting for you to recognize its lessons. If impermanence is the law of life, and karma is the law of consequence, then attachment is the trap that keeps us bound to suffering. The Buddha taught that craving and clinging are the root causes of human misery. We grasp at people, possessions, emotions, even ideas, as if they could last forever, as if they were extensions of our very selves. But in a world where everything is fleeting and conditioned, attachment is like trying to hold smoke in your hands. The tighter you grip, the more it slips away. Think of the things you cling to most. Perhaps it is a relationship you believe you cannot live without. Perhaps it is an image of yourself, youthful, strong, admired, that time inevitably erodes. Perhaps it is security, a job, or a set of beliefs that you fear losing. All of these attachments feel natural, yet the very act of grasping at them creates anxiety long before they ever leave. The moment you cling, you already suffer, because deep down you know that change is inevitable. A famous Buddhist story illustrates this truth. A monk held up a delicate glass and said, "To me, this glass is already broken. Because I see it this way, I can enjoy it fully now. When it eventually falls and shatters, I will not despair, because I always knew its nature." This is the wisdom of non-attachment, not denial, not indifference, but a deep appreciation of impermanence. By recognizing that the glass is already broken, we learn to savor its beauty while it exists, without fear of the day it will be gone. Attachment distorts love. When we cling to another person, insisting they must remain the same, we transform love into possession. True love allows freedom. Attachment demands control. To love without clinging is not to love less, but to love more purely. It is to say, "I cherish you as you are, not as I need you to be." Such love flows like a river. It nurtures, refreshes, and adapts, rather than grasping and suffocating. Attachment also hides in subtler forms. We cling to anger, replaying old wounds as if they define us. We cling to sorrow, wearing it as an identity. We cling to success, fearing the day it fades. Even our suffering can become an attachment because it gives us a sense of self, a story to tell. Buddhism invites us to see through this illusion. Pain is real, but it does not need to become a prison. The practice of letting go is not about rejection, but about release. To let go is not to push people away or renounce all joy. It is to loosen the grip that says, "This must stay or I cannot be happy." Instead, we learn to hold everything with open hands, receiving, appreciating, and allowing it to pass when its time comes. In this way, we discover a freedom we never imagined. Consider the mind of one who clings. It is filled with fear, fear of loss, fear of change, fear of emptiness. Now consider the mind of one who lets go. It is filled with space. Space to breathe, space to adapt, space to welcome the next moment without resentment. Which mind feels lighter? Which one tastes peace? This does not mean we should abandon relationships, goals, or passions. It means we engage with them differently. We love deeply, but we do not try to own. We work diligently, but we do not make success our identity. We honor joy when it comes, but we do not demand it stay. We bow to loss when it arrives, but we do not collapse under it. To walk this path is to step out of the prison of attachment and into the wide-open field of freedom. So the next time you feel the sharp sting of clinging, when anxiety rises at the thought of losing what you treasure, pause. Ask yourself, am I holding this out of love or out of fear? If fear, can I soften my grip even a little? Can I allow this moment to be what it is without demanding it be otherwise? This is the practice. Slowly, steadily, suffering loosens its hold. To see attachment clearly is already the beginning of release. To loosen it is the birth of peace, and to let go fully is to discover a joy untouched by change, a joy that flows not from holding, but from being. Adversity is a teacher most of us try to avoid. We pray for smooth roads, easy victories, gentle seasons, and yet look honestly at your life. When have you grown the most? Was it when everything went according to plan, or when the ground beneath you suddenly gave way? It is in the dark nights, the disappointments, the unexpected losses that our deepest lessons often emerge. Buddhism does not ask us to seek suffering, but it does urge us to recognize suffering as fertile soil for wisdom. Consider the butterfly. Inside its cocoon, it struggles, pressing, straining, fighting to emerge. An observer, moved by pity, may try to cut the cocoon and set the butterfly free, but without that struggle, its wings will never strengthen. The very resistance that seems cruel is what gives the butterfly the ability to fly. So it is with us. Without challenges, our resilience remains weak. Without resistance, our wisdom remains shallow. The pain we wish away is often the exact training ground we need. Think of a time you faced heartbreak, a relationship that ended, a dream that collapsed. At first, all seemed wasted, but over time, perhaps you discovered independence you never knew you had, or a new path that would never have opened had the old one not closed. What felt like destruction was in fact a kind of rebirth. Buddhism frames adversity as an opportunity, dukkha. The suffering inherent in life is not a punishment but a pointer. It points us toward our attachments, our illusions, our false expectations. When we feel the sting of loss, we are forced to ask, what was I clinging to? What belief did I hold about how life should be? In this way, hardship becomes a mirror, showing us where our illusions still live. A famous story tells of a disciple who complained bitterly to his master about how unfair life was. The master asked him to take a handful of salt and place it in a glass of water. The disciple obeyed, then tasted. "It is unbearable," he said. The master then led him to a lake, asked him to throw the same handful of salt in and drink again. This time, the water was still sweet. The master smiled. Suffering is like salt. The amount does not change. What changes is the vessel. When your heart is small, every pain feels unbearable. Expand your perspective, and the suffering dissolves. What does it mean to expand our perspective? It means seeing beyond the immediate wound. It means asking not, why me, but what can this teach me? It means trusting that pain has a purpose, even when it is hidden. With this shift, adversity transforms from enemy to ally. The fire that burns away illusions also forges strength. The storm that uproots the tree also clears space for new growth. Of course, in the moment, this is not easy. When grief hits, when illness strikes, when failure stings, it feels like the end of the story. But Buddhism reminds us, it is only a chapter. The river keeps flowing. The seed buried in darkness is preparing to sprout. What seems like an ending is often the beginning of a deeper journey. We can make this practical. The next time you face hardship, pause and write down what you are experiencing. Not just the pain, but the lessons hiding within it. Ask, What is this showing me about my attachments? What strength is it calling forth in me? What compassion is it awakening for others who suffer the same? By framing adversity as teacher, we reclaim our power. Instead of being crushed, we are carved. Instead of being destroyed, we are refined. Another image. Gold in fire. When raw gold is placed in flames, impurities burn away. The process is painful, violent even. But only through fire does the gold shine in its purest form. In the same way, adversity can feel like it is tearing us apart. Yet beneath the surface, it is purifying, clarifying, revealing the essence of who we truly are. So the question becomes, will we allow adversity to harden us or to awaken us? Many choose bitterness, resentment, self-pity. They lock their suffering into their identity and carry it like a shield. But others choose differently. They use pain as fuel for compassion, wisdom, and strength. These are the ones who emerge from storms not broken, but radiant. When you next encounter difficulty, remember the butterfly, remember the salt in the water, remember the gold in the fire. Life is not punishing you, it is shaping you. The obstacle before you is not a dead end, but a doorway. Walk through it with awareness, and you may discover a strength you did not know you had, a compassion you did not know you could feel, and a wisdom that could not have come any other way. Adversity is not the enemy. It is the teacher that speaks in a voice most of us try to silence. But if we listen, truly listen, we will hear it whisper, grow, let go, awaken. If impermanence teaches us that everything changes and adversity shows us how to grow through suffering, then mindfulness is the bridge that allows us to truly live amidst this constant flow. Buddhism calls this practice sati, the art of being fully aware, fully present, fully alive in this very moment. So often, our minds are anywhere but here. We replay the past like an old film, clinging to regrets or sweet memories that cannot return. Or we fast forward into the future, scripting tragedies that may never happen, building castles of expectation that crumble before they're built. Between yesterday's ghost and tomorrow's shadow, the present moment slips away unnoticed. Mindfulness is the invitation to stop running. It is the simple yet profound act of noticing this breath, this sound, this step, this taste. It is not about emptying the mind or forcing silence. It is about awareness, seeing things as they are, without judgment, without clinging, without resistance. Consider the breath. It enters, it leaves. You cannot hold it, you cannot stop it, you cannot force it to remain. Yet if you pay attention, you discover something miraculous. The breath is always here. It anchors you to the now. Each inhale is a beginning. Each exhale is a release. In this rhythm, the truth of impermanence and the possibility of peace coexist. Think about eating. In haste, we consume food without tasting, scrolling screens while swallowing, already planning what comes next. But in mindfulness, you taste fully the crunch of fruit, the warmth of tea, the fragrance rising before the first sip. A simple meal becomes sacred. Gratitude arises naturally when you are present, because you realize this may never come again. Walking can be meditation too. Normally we rush, our minds miles ahead of our feet. But when you walk mindfully, you feel each step, the earth supporting you, the air brushing your skin. Suddenly, the ordinary path becomes a pilgrimage. Each step is enough, each moment complete. The mind, however, resists this simplicity. It wants drama, distraction, noise. The Buddhists call it the monkey mind, restless, leaping from branch to branch of thought. Mindfulness does not kill the monkey. It gently trains it to rest. With practice, the chatter softens, a spaciousness opens. Thoughts still arise, but like clouds in a vast sky, they pass without storming your peace. Why is this important? Because so much of our suffering comes not from what happens, but from our mental reactions. A delay at the airport becomes misery not because of the delay itself, but because of the story we tell. This shouldn't happen. I can't stand this. My plans are ruined. The event is neutral. Our mind paints it with resistance. Mindfulness interrupts this cycle. It allows us to see the raw moment before the story and to choose our response. When you are mindful, you reclaim freedom. You no longer live as a puppet of habit, pulled by anger, greed, or fear. You see the emotion arise, anger, sadness, desire, and instead of being swept away, you acknowledge it. Ah, this is anger. It will pass. This simple recognition breaks the chain of reactivity. You become an observer, not a victim, of your mind. And the more you practice, the more you discover beauty in what once seemed mundane. The song of a bird outside your window, the pattern of sunlight on the floor, the gentle silence between two friends. These are not trivial. They are life itself. To miss them is to miss life. Mindfulness also deepens compassion. When you are truly present with another person, you listen not just to their words, but to their silences, their emotions, their unspoken needs. In a distracted world, the gift of full presence is rare and healing. To say, through your attention, I am here with you, is one of the purest forms of love. Of course, mindfulness is not always easy. The world seduces us with constant stimulation. Our minds pull us into endless commentary. But remember, mindfulness is not about perfection. It is about practice. Each time you notice you've wandered and gently return to the present, you strengthen the muscle of awareness. Even 5 conscious breaths in the middle of a busy day is a victory. The Buddha taught that enlightenment is not found in some distant heaven, but in the present moment. Here, in this breath, in this step, in this smile. If you cannot touch peace now, you will not find it tomorrow. The door to liberation is always in the present, and mindfulness is the key. So pause now, breathe, feel the life that moves through you. Everything you need is already here. The past is gone, the future unborn. Only this moment is real. To awaken is simply to live it fully. Imagine being caught in a storm at sea. The waves rise higher, the current pulls stronger, and your instinct is to fight. You thrash, you resist, you battle the water with all your strength. And yet the harder you struggle, the more exhausted you become, the more the sea overpowers you. Now imagine surrendering not to drown but to float. You let the current carry you, and suddenly, instead of an enemy, the ocean becomes your guide. This image lies at the heart of a Buddhist truth. Life flows according to its own rhythm. To find peace, we must learn to trust the flow. Buddhism speaks of Dharma, the natural order, the law that holds the universe together. Just as the seasons arrive in their time, just as rivers carve their paths to the sea, so too do our lives unfold in alignment with causes and conditions far greater than our control. We suffer because we imagine we can dictate every turn, that if we plan well enough, fight hard enough, resist long enough, life will bend to our will. But control is an illusion. To demand control over a flowing river is to stand in the water and order it to stop. The river does not obey. The wiser choice is to learn how to move with it. There is an old story about a farmer. One day his horse ran away. Neighbors came and said, "What misfortune?" The farmer replied, "Who knows if it is good or bad?" Days later, the horse returned, bringing with it several wild horses. The neighbors exclaimed, "What good fortune!" The farmer again said, "Who knows if it is good or bad?" Soon after, his son tried to tame one of the horses, fell, and broke his leg. "Terrible misfortune," the neighbors cried. The farmer repeated, "Who knows if it is good or bad?" Weeks later, soldiers came to conscript young men for war, but the farmer's son was spared because of his injury. What first appeared as loss turned into blessing. What first appeared as blessing revealed itself as protection. This story embodies the wisdom of trusting the flow. Our limited view cannot grasp the vast web of causes and effects. What we label today as tragedy may tomorrow reveal itself as a gift. What we cling to as success may later become a burden. Life is too complex to be measured by the shallow categories of good or bad. Trusting the flow means living with patience, humility, and openness, allowing time to reveal the deeper meaning. When we resist, suffering multiplies. A closed door enrages us, though it may be saving us from harm. A delayed journey frustrates us, though it may be guiding us to meet the right person at the right time. Resistance says, "This must not be happening." Trust whispers, "This too belongs." Trusting the flow does not mean passivity. It is not about giving up responsibility or abandoning effort. A sailor still steers his boat, but he reads the wind, he respects the tide. In the same way, we act with wisdom, but we no longer delude ourselves into believing we command the ocean of life. We align with it, we cooperate with it, and in that cooperation we discover ease. This practice requires faith, not blind belief, but a quiet confidence born from observation. Look at your past. How many times did a seeming failure lead to an unexpected opportunity? How many times did life redirect you away from what you thought you wanted, only to reveal something better? Again and again the current has carried you, even when you resisted. That same current flows now. To trust the flow is to release the constant tension of needing to know, needing to control, needing to predict. It is to soften into the mystery, to admit, "I do not see the whole picture, but I am willing to walk this path step by step." It is to stop wrestling with the river and instead learn how to swim. And as trust deepens, peace arises. Imagine walking through life without the constant burden of trying to control what cannot be controlled. Imagine meeting each moment with curiosity instead of fear. Imagine saying not, "Why me?" but, "Let me see where this leads." This is not resignation, it is liberation. The lotus, a symbol sacred to Buddhism, grows in muddy water. If you tried to control its growth, pulling it upward, you would destroy it. But left to its natural rhythm, nourished by mud and rain, it blossoms perfectly. So too with your life. Each difficulty, each delay, each detour may be the very mud needed for your awakening. Trust the process, trust the flow. So pause and reflect. Where in your life are you fighting the river? What would happen if you loosened your grip, surrendered a little, and allowed life to carry you forward? Perhaps you would find that what you feared as chaos is in fact a hidden order, guiding you exactly where you need to be. What is the purpose of life? For centuries, people have searched for a single definitive answer. Some look to the stars, others to holy texts, still others to careers, wealth, or relationships. But Buddhism offers a subtle, liberating perspective. Purpose is not something hidden in a distant place waiting to be discovered. It is revealed moment by moment through how we live, how we act, and how we connect with all that exists. The first step to understanding purpose is to recognize that nothing in life is isolated. The Buddha taught pratitya samutpada, dependent origination or interconnection. Nothing arises by itself. Every event, every being, every thought is the result of countless conditions coming together. Just as a tree depends on soil, water, sunlight, and air, so too do we depend on innumerable factors for our existence. To see this is to awaken to the truth that we are part of a vast web of life. Think of a candle. When one flame lights another, it loses nothing, yet spreads light to the darkness. Our actions are like that. A kind word ripples outward, brightening lives we may never meet. A careless cruelty can cast shadows far beyond what we see. To live with purpose, then, is not to chase some grand destiny, but to be mindful of the ripples we create. We often think of meaning as a destination, something to arrive at when we achieve enough, own enough, or know enough. But Buddhism gently corrects this illusion. Meaning is not found in the distant horizon. It is created in the step beneath our feet. When you wash a dish with mindfulness, when you listen deeply to a friend, when you offer compassion instead of judgment, purpose is already here. Yet our culture often measures purpose in size. The bigger the achievement, the greater the meaning. But in the Buddhist view, a single drop matters. One small act of generosity can shift an entire life. One moment of patience can prevent a war of words. Just as every seed eventually shapes the forest, so every choice contributes to the unfolding whole. Purpose is not about scale, it is about sincerity. This interconnection also explains why no meeting is accidental. Each person who crosses your path carries a lesson. Some awaken your kindness, others your boundaries. Some reflect your light, others your shadow. Even those who hurt you may be teachers, revealing where you still cling, where you still fear, where you still must grow. When we view relationships through this lens, even painful encounters gain meaning. They are not random collisions, but mirrors for self-discovery. Ask yourself, who in your life has been a candle for you? Whose presence ignited something within you, a lesson, a strength, a love, or a courage you did not know you had? And in turn, whose candle have you lit? This is interconnection in action, the web of influence that silently shapes us all. To live with awareness of interconnection is also to recognize responsibility. If nothing we do is separate, then our choices are never private. Every word, every act, every thought adds to the collective. This is why cultivating compassion is not just a personal virtue, but a global necessity. When you choose kindness, you are not only freeing yourself, you are planting peace into the soil of the world. Purpose also evolves. At one stage, your purpose may be learning, at another teaching. At one stage, healing yourself, at another healing others. Like a river, it changes form, but never ceases to flow. The mistake is believing that purpose is a fixed title or role. In truth, it is alive, shifting with the seasons of your life, yet always grounded in the same root, awareness and connection. The great trap is comparison. We look at others and think, her purpose is greater than mine, his impact is larger. But the Dharma reminds us, no two paths are identical. A tree does not compare itself to the mountain. The ocean does not envy the sky. Each fulfills its role in the great harmony of existence. Your task is not to mimic another's calling, but to honor your own. Imagine life as a vast tapestry. Each thread is a life, weaving in and out, touching others, forming patterns no single thread can see. Some threads are bright, others dark, but all are necessary for the picture to be complete. Purpose is not in being the brightest thread, it is in being the thread you are meant to be. And what is that thread? It is revealed each day in the opportunities before you, to act with compassion, to practice mindfulness, to nurture wisdom, to serve where you are needed. Purpose is not elsewhere. It is here. It is not later. It is now. When you embrace this truth, life transforms. No act is wasted. No encounter is meaningless. No moment is too small. You realize you are not a separate being wandering aimlessly through chaos. You are part of the whole, co-creating the future with every choice. So let us end this section with a question, not an answer. In the great web of existence, what light are you adding? What ripple will you leave behind? Remember, your flame, no matter how small, is never alone. Every act of awareness, every gesture of compassion, every breath lived mindfully is part of something far greater than yourself. And that, in itself, is purpose. As we arrive at the end of this journey, let us pause and gather the threads we have traced together. We began with impermanence, the truth that everything changes. We saw how clinging creates suffering and how letting go opens the door to freedom. We reflected on karma, the ripples of our choices that shape our lives and the lives around us. We walked through the pain of attachment and the lessons of adversity, discovering that even suffering carries within it the seed of wisdom. We touched mindfulness, the art of inhabiting the present moment, and we learned the power of trusting life's flow instead of fighting against it. Finally, we discovered purpose, not as a distant goal, but as the living interconnection of our actions with all of existence. What do these teachings point to? They point to awakening. Not awakening as some distant, mystical event, but awakening here and now. Awakening is simply seeing reality as it is, without the fog of resistance, without the chains of illusion. It is realizing that you are not a victim of chance, nor a prisoner of your past, but a participant in the unfolding dance of life. Imagine living with this awareness. When joy comes, you embrace it fully, without fear of losing it. When sorrow visits, you bow to it gently, knowing it too will pass. When challenges arise, you face them as teachers, not enemies. When the present moment unfolds, you inhabit it with mindfulness, tasting its fullness instead of rushing past it. This is not theory, it is practice, and it is available to you in every breath you take. Awakening does not mean escaping life. It means engaging life more deeply, with open eyes and an open heart. It means acting with compassion because you understand interconnection. It means cultivating wisdom because you have seen impermanence. It means embodying peace because you have learned to trust the flow. But most of all, awakening means living with responsibility. For now you know, nothing is insignificant. Each thought is a seed, each word a ripple, each act a flame. You are always contributing to harmony or to discord, to suffering or to healing. The question is not whether you make an impact, but what kind of impact you choose to make. So here is the invitation: awaken. Awaken not tomorrow, not someday, but now. Awaken to the breath you are taking, to the person beside you, to the lessons hidden in your own story. Awaken to the truth that everything you experience is an opportunity for growth, an invitation to love, a chance to let go. Life is calling you to rise, to see, to live differently. Do not wait for the perfect moment, it is already here. Do not wait for certainty, you will not find it. Do not wait for guarantees, life offers none. All you have is this moment, and this moment is enough. So, as you step forward, remember, impermanence will change you, karma will guide you, suffering will refine you, mindfulness will anchor you, trust will carry you, and interconnection will remind you that you are never alone. Your purpose is already unfolding, one mindful act at a time. Awaken. Be present. Be free.